Hello, guys. Welcome back to the channel. So yeah, the Indiana Fever have officially signed their second dev contract player, and I'm not gonna lie, this one caught a lot of people off guard. Like, genuinely, I think most fans expected them to go in a completely different direction. Maybe bring in a big, maybe bring in somebody with upside, maybe bring in a player that could actually compete for a real roster spot. But instead, they went with Bree Hall. And while the name itself might surprise people, the logic behind the move honestly does not surprise me whatsoever. Because if you've been paying attention to the Indiana Fever and the way they've handled the end of their roster, this move makes perfect sense from their perspective. I'm not saying it's the right thing. I'm not saying fans have to like it. I personally don't love it, but I absolutely understand why they did it. And a lot of people online are already mad. You've got people saying this is South Carolina favoritism. You've got people saying they ignored players that could make Caitlin Clark more comfortable. You've got people asking why they didn't go after Kate Martin. Other fans are saying, why are they afraid to sign a big? And honestly, I think some of those criticisms are fair, but I also think people are misunderstanding what the Indiana Fever actually want from a dev contract player. The Indiana Fever do not want somebody fighting for minutes. They do not want somebody pushing veterans for roster spots. They do not want somebody that expects to play meaningful basketball this season. That's the reality. What they want is basically a practice player. That's it. They want somebody that is going to show up every single day, go hard in practice, help prepare the starters, help prepare the second unit, and then be completely okay with never seeing the floor during an actual game. That's what this role is. And I know that sounds harsh, but that's the truth. Like, think about it. This player may literally spend the entire season not dressing out for games. They could go through team introductions, warm-ups, practices, travel, all of it, and still never touch the court in a meaningful moment. There'll be nights where they are told to head back to the locker room instead of sitting on the bench after announcements. That's the kind of role we're talking about here. So when people say, why didn't they sign this young prospect? Or why didn't they bring in somebody with huge upside? It's because a lot of those players do not want that role. Most young players believe they can make a roster somewhere. Most young players believe they deserve a shot. And honestly, they probably do deserve a shot. There are basically two types of dev players in the WNBA right now. There are players who understand they are basically signing up to be practice players, and then there are players who still believe they can force their way onto a roster through performance. And that's where somebody like Justine Pissott becomes interesting. Even if Justine Pissott wanted to make a team somewhere else, she really didn't have many options. She had to take the Fever dev offer because of how the rules work. Unless another team waived her rights, like the Mercury or the Valkyries did in other situations, she couldn't just freely bounce around and sign wherever she wanted. And honestly, when you look around the league, other teams are actually using their dev players. Freddie Brunson got minutes. Huff came in late for the Lynx. You had situations where players were getting opportunities over veterans like Tommy Fugbenle. Aisha Sivka got opportunities. Teams around the league are at least experimenting with these players. The Indiana Fever are not doing that, and I cannot stress this enough. There is a reason why players are becoming hesitant to sign with the Indiana Fever. Fans keep asking, why are they signing another guard? But the answer is honestly pretty simple. They already have a roster overloaded with guards, and because of that, they need extra practice bodies to match up against those guards during practice sessions. That's literally part of the reason. They need people to simulate opposing backcourts. They need bodies for drills. They need practice intensity. And unfortunately, that is how the Fever are viewing these dev spots right now. Do I hate that? Absolutely. I hate the idea that players are basically being brought in with almost zero chance to actually compete. I hate the idea that unless you were already part of the day one core roster, you never really had a fair shot to make the team. Because let's be honest here, outside of the main 12 players, has anybody truly been given a real opportunity? I don't think so. And that's why I understand the frustration from fans. But at the same time, Bree Hall actually makes sense for the exact role the Fever want. She's known as a good locker room presence. She works hard. Coaches trust her. She's not going to complain about minutes. She's going to defend in practice, help the scout team, and keep things professional. That matters to organizations. The Fever know exactly what they're getting with Bree Hall, and Bree Hall probably understands exactly what this role is. That's why the signing happened, because again, this isn't really about developing talent, it's about maintaining practice structure. Now, where I think fans get frustrated is when they compare the Fever to other organizations. Other teams are actually willing to give their dev players opportunities. The Fever are one of the only teams where it genuinely feels like these players are hidden away. Look at Justine Pissott. The moment she hit a couple of threes and started showing flashes, fans immediately noticed. And honestly, it almost feels like the Fever don't want that attention on those players, because the second a dev player looks too good, another team could swoop in and sign them. That's the risk. If a player suddenly proves they belong in a real rotation, another franchise may decide to give them an actual opportunity, and if the Fever still only view them as a practice player, they could lose them for nothing. That's why fans feel like the Fever are hiding some of these players. And then you look at veterans like Satori Walker-Kimbrough. Even if she barely plays, the Fever are still comfortable holding on to that roster spot because they value experience and insurance. If Caitlin Clark or Kelsey Mitchell miss time, they trust a veteran more than a younger player. That's just how they're operating. But there's a downside to this strategy, and it's a massive one. Young players notice this stuff. Overseas players notice this stuff. Agents notice this stuff. They see that there's basically no pathway to real minutes unless you're an established veteran. And eventually, that hurts your ability to recruit talent. Why would an overseas player sign with Indiana if they believe they'll never get a real opportunity? Why would a young prospect pick the Fever over another organization that actually develops talent? That's the problem. And honestly, the Chloe Bibby situation kind of proves the point. The Fever didn't exactly discover Chloe Bibby through some elite international scouting network. They saw her play well against them, and suddenly she was on the radar. That's not exactly inspiring confidence in the scouting department. Again, I'm not saying the front office is terrible at everything. They've done some good things. Obviously, drafting Caitlin Clark changed the trajectory of the franchise. They've brought in excitement. They've brought in talent. There are positive things happening. But when it comes to roster construction and player development, there are still major questions. Because at the end of the day, what exactly is the long-term vision here? Is it just stacking veterans forever? Is it refusing to develop young players? Is it treating every dev contract like a glorified practice squad position? That's why fans are frustrated. And honestly, I feel bad for players like Bree Hall. I really do, because people online are going after her when the reality is she's just accepting an opportunity that was offered to her. Most players would do the exact same thing. But think about the financial side of this too. These players are making around $700 a week in some cases. In the middle of all this talk about transformational CBAs and league growth, some of these athletes are literally making less money than people talking about them online. That's crazy when you think about it. So yeah, while I understand why the Indiana Fever made this move, I also completely understand why fans are frustrated. The Fever clearly value stability, practice structure, and veteran insurance right now. And until that changes, people are going to continue criticizing these dev contract decisions. But anyway, that's just my opinion on the whole situation. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you think the Indiana Fever made the right move with Bree Hall? Do you think they should have signed somebody else, like Kate Martin, or gone after a big instead? And do you think the Fever are handling these dev contracts the wrong way? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.